Warning, the following podcast may contain strong language and also spoilers for both The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. Hello and welcome to today's podcast with me, Luke Fletcher, and today's panel consists of Matthew Wright, James Fox, and Alex. I forgot your last name, I apologise. Sorry.
Hi.
Hello. This is more or less the same panel that happened for the previous podcast in which we talked about films, and a common theme within films that we talked about, we ended up going on to TV. So I thought this should be a TV podcast, and one of the subject matters within it was The Walking Dead, so I thought that's where we begin. So before we begin, are we all caught up?
I've only ever seen the first season of it. I've read the books up until end of the last season or something like that.
I've watched everything up to last season.
I've watched half of... The only thing I'm missing is the half of the last season, but I already know what happens and I already read the comics, so I know exactly what happens.
Read the comics.
So just in case you haven't haven't watched it, there might be some potential spoilers.
There will be spoilers.
All the spoilers.
Negan dies. No, he doesn't. He does.
That's also a spoiler saying he's not dying.
Shit, he might die.
There we go.
Might. Okay. So where do you want to begin? Do you want to begin with the latest season or where we're all up to?
At that point, you're going to have to talk about the first season.
Well, should we talk about the popularity of the show?
Yeah, let's
and
start.
then why people think it's good.
Okay, let's start with that. Season 7 started with 17 million views with episode 1.
Ooh.
And that was only, I think, because they left it on the major cliffhanger.
I think it was a shit cliffhanger, personally speaking.
Yeah,
A very annoying cliffhanger.
That's because you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah. We read the comics before, so we knew. So from a comic book
Not
perspective,
everything in the
frustrating.
comic books happens in the TV show, though.
No, even
it
that's
doesn't
altered,
translate.
but I think...
It did throw a good curveball for fans of the book,
Yeah.
because obviously, like spoilers, obviously, but obviously in the books, it's Glenn that dies. Negan just kills Glenn.
Just Glenn,
As
yeah.
in the show, I thought it did a really good curveball for me, especially where obviously they killed Abraham, and I thought, that's sad, but he'd obviously already died in the book. But then obviously they then decided to kill Glenn as well, which to me, that actually shocked me. I didn't expect there to be more than one death, so that was good in that regard. But at the same time, I
just felt they could have done the same cliffhanger by just killing that one person, and everyone would go, "Oh shit!" like this, and leave it there. It would have been more
rather
dramatic.
than have a 6-month break.
I think the thing is with Walking Dead, when we perceived it, when it came out first time, it was kind of this: anyone can die. It wasn't very. It didn't use generics, and then when he did that, it was like, "Oh, actually, we're going back to TV generics. We're going to leave you on this big cliffhanger. It's very cliche," and you're just like. All you had to do was kill one person off, and he's still just as dramatic.
Yeah.
Like, if they killed Glenn off straight away and did that, all the people who hadn't read the books or the TV show would still have been like, oh my god. Like, they just went back to the cliche of TV writing.
Or even if they'd done what they did, but kill Glenn in the season finale, and then have it where you see the aftermath when you come back, but then you still got to see Glenn die the same way he did, that still would have worked for me.
To be fair, I talked to a lot of people that have been watching the show and stuff like that, and it's like the number of people that were like massively they were shocked that they did actually kill Glenn for that. They were expecting it to be completely different.
Well, they had teased his death for season after season.
That one before the dust bit, they think.
Yeah, but that's kind of why it was a bit tedious, because
yeah.
it was the season before, I think it was, where they did a cliffhanger again where you thought he was dead and he was actually hiding under a dumpster.
And that was another thing, like, we'll come on to that in a bit, the way the season plays itself out. But going back to popularity, weeks after leading up to the mid-season break, views had dropped that were ranging between 10 and 11 million.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it was a sort of, after the big sort of opening episode, it just fell into a bit of a lull after.
Was the most recent one?
Yeah.
Well,
we're here for. I think the thing that only attracts me to go back is Negan at the moment. Like, I'm kind of bored of. That's why I've kind of stopped Walking There, because it's very boring. Like, me and Matt, we discussed it, and we were like, you know, these quiet moments where nothing's much happening, not using it to a full effect. They're not delving into new characters or relationships. It's just nothing's changed. You see an episode and nothing has happened. And I think people are starting to get bored of that. I think very quickly. And it's very long. Like, how many episodes per season? It's like 23, isn't it? It's like,
wait, 16.
16. I thought it used to be like 23.
The first series had like 6 episodes. The second one had like 13, which is 13 is sort of like the usual American sort of series, but this one goes on for about 18 episodes.
Yeah, like it's very long, and they're drawing it out. And I think the problem is it's not entertaining enough for people. So they see these, like Negan will bring people back because he's such an interesting character, and the actor he is. It brings people in, but I think that's it. I think that at the moment I don't see the appeal, to be honest.
Well, my argument is that I don't know how to explain it. Like when you look at sort of the show, comparing it to the books, the books are really good at detailing like the little details, and obviously things are explained methodically, but some things are slow but still work, and some things are fast paced. The show, as Tony said, Alex said, doesn't work to that same effect. If it's just a dialogue episode, it comes across very boring. And my other key point of why in my personal opinion, why Walking Dead has got a bit stale, and maybe why a lot of other people, when Walking Dead first came onto the TV, there was no other show like it in its format of it being very brutal, very end of humanity style program.
No hope kind of aspect.
But now when you're getting similar shows, a lot, like obviously zombies picked up, you've got films, you've got everything to do with zombies, but then you've also got TV shows that are fantastic in character development, but also in format. As you look at shows like Game of Thrones, and that juggles 30, 40 characters, but each episode you're looking at 7-8 characters, and it keeps you entertained. Walking Dead will follow one character through a boring storyline for 50 minutes. It's boring.
Well, it's like what I said before. Like when you write a script like that, you have to have purpose with your dialogue. You have to have something. Game of Thrones, it does it purposely. There's some reaction, like 2 characters will discuss something. There's like some outcome to it. There's something that comes out at the end of it. With The Walking Dead, the start of the episode and the end of the episode, if you didn't watch it, nothing has changed. With some of the episodes, slow episodes, and that's the problem. The audience subconsciously want to see something changed or something happen.
That was one of the criticisms for season 7, is that between the beginning and the end, barely anything happened. You had the explosive start, and then you had it just fizzle out, and he was basically explaining Negan's a bad guy, Negan's a bad guy, Negan's a bad guy. Oh wait, we have to fight now.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I'd also say I don't want to keep referring it to like Game of Thrones, but there are characters in Game of Thrones where everyone has an opinion on whether they like or dislike a character. There's not very many characters where I look at and say, I'm not really bothered about them. I either like them or I dislike them. With The Walking Dead, you're supposed to make everyone like or dislike characters so that when they die, it's more impactful.
Do you think possibly it's because there's a fantasy element behind Game of Thrones? Sorry, because in The Walking Dead, it's basically you're human. You may have a different personality, but with Game of Thrones, it's sort of like they're all different characters and different.
I can see that side of it, but I'm also thinking Walking Dead is how humanity deal with zombies. Game of Thrones is how humans deal with other humans and supernatural in terms of dragons and stuff. So I know they are different in terms of a fantasy,
but you still do characters.
But it's not the fantasy aspect that draws people into Game of Thrones. It adds to it because they want to see these dragons and stuff. But it's the formula. It's the way these characters. It's all this espionage and stuff like that.
Like, it's structured really well.
Do you know what I mean? It's so good. There's nothing about Game of Thrones where I'm watching an episode and I'm really bored, because they'll have someone who's say maybe not doing something so important, but then it will skip to someone who is, and it interlocks characters. Walking Dead since season 4, when they like separate to the group, they now tend to do episode following 1 or 2 people, and it becomes, as you said, this whole season has been about them trying to fight against Negan or Negan being around, but it's so slow and nothing has happened.
Well, we were saying like our biggest problem, like probably with Walking Dead, is there's so many factors you can put into play where you can make a great story and stuff like resources. Why is that never delved into? Like that could be an interesting factor for everyone. Like people's jobs, people's things. Like that's what made characters interesting. They've got a purpose.
Well, think of season 1. They got those bag of guns, and until this season, they never ran out of bullets, never lost anything.
No food problems, no clothes problems, no nothing.
It's not until this season when they're trying to properly show Rick's community is really down in the dumps. They've got no guns all of a sudden.
Yeah.
You never see them scavenging for stuff like that.
There was always like a part in like every episode where it's just like, oh, by the way, these guys are just going to go off and looking for resources.
Yeah,
and
so
then we
like,
never.
but that's the problem is the whole purpose of the show, which is touched on more in the comic, is that it's humans trying to survive in a zombie world. So in the books, you have this section where when they go to the prison, they've got no clothes, so they all start wearing prison outfits. But what they do is so that they don't, for morale and stuff, is they dye the prison outfits white instead of orange, so that they don't all feel like criminals. You don't have anything like that in the show. It's all the, it's all about like group mentality, but you never see them actually struggle for anything they have. They easily find everything. The only thing they've really fought for is the prison, and even that was kind of dragged out with them trying to like empty out the. My issue is that they should take on the mentality of Game of Thrones and interlock storylines. So you should have it where for one episode you'll see 10 minutes of Rick doing something whilst he's out scavenging for food, but then you'll see 20 minutes of what Negan's doing or whatever. You need to interlock the characters.
Well, you're just having more than one problem at the same time, and then like Rick could be the mind guy. He's trying to work out all these problems, and then you have these people going out doing these different things because all these problems are coming at the same time. How interesting would that be?
And look how realistic that is. You've got to think, in Game of Thrones, everyone is miles and miles apart. So you're seeing what they're all doing, of how they're travelling towards each other, away from each other. The Game of Thrones, Walking Dead should be exactly the same as that. Everybody is either really close or really far apart, but it's just it follows one section.
But it's always like they may scavenge out at the beginning, like throughout the season. They may be separated, but in the finale, they all come together and every storyline intersects.
And that's good, because one thing is, they mention time in Walking Dead all the time, yet you never properly see natural time passing by. It's always, as I said, it just follows one person, so that day's gone. So you'll see one day's worth of one character. Why, when you've got such a big cast, why aren't you interlocking them more? Why aren't you showing us everything? This season especially, it showed you like the aftermath of the people dying. We saw them die, and then the aftermath of that when they were all together. Mm-hmm. Then you had the one episode when they went to like the hilltop. You had one episode when they went to the kingdom. You had one episode back at Rick's group. Why aren't you interlocking them? Why aren't you? Because then it's not as drawn out. It's becoming stale. But then in that time, like when they went to the kingdom and Carol met Ezekiel and stuff, why did that need to be a whole episode? That was just one, and all they did in that episode was Carol spoke to Ezekiel, a bit of time passed, Carol speaks to Ezekiel again, a bit more time passes, Carol and Ezekiel have a final chat. Why aren't you showing us other things and then bringing it back to that? To show time has passed that way.
I don't think they've got enough content. I think the problem is the season's too long, their episodes are too long, and they haven't got enough content for the comic books, and they're not good enough. If you ever notice, they're not good enough doing it on their own. Like, they have to stick, because the best content, the best episodes are the ones that follow the comic books, right? They always seem to be the best stuff. And the thing is, I don't think they're good enough writers to write their own episodes, because like I say, it is long. So it's great for them to write their own stuff. Like, change stuff, it doesn't matter. But as long as it's good and it's loyal and it doesn't mess up with the comic books, like, do your own stuff. And like I say, you've got all this time, you have so many characters that are not delved into, like the small characters. Like Matt said, like when they die, you don't feel nothing. But wouldn't it be great if they delved into these smaller characters a bit more than the comic books could ever do? Get them really liked and stuff. And when those small characters die, you feel it. And like we used to say, like give them the jobs, because when you lose them, it affects the community. So their deaths are more impactful. But you have that time to then give these people episodes, or not even a whole episode, but you get like a few episodes. Like they all go on a scavenging hunt, or the base is getting attacked a bit by the zombies. It's a small thing, but it shows who's good at what they can do, what some people can't do. Somebody can think up plans and stuff like this, and you give them all a different, like a pro and a con and stuff like that. And they all have a system and a job, and this is how it functions. And that's what they said. They have the structure within their community.
I think maybe they include that, but it's not
very
probably
light.
exactly that's what I was going to say. They're not. It's not
yeah.
gone into detail enough.
Well, they just have these.
The thing is, they also follow the stereotypical formula, because the whole point is that obviously anybody can die, and obviously nobody's safe. Yet they play to a formula that's used so often, which is so predictable, that when someone gets screen time, unless it's like the main characters like Rick and that lot, then that means that character's going to die, and that's the reason they're
getting
getting
an episode
screen time.
dedicated.
So then it becomes
No,
predictable.
yeah.
Like Sasha, she had a big storyline, and do you know what I mean? And then you know that character's going to die, or this character will.
Yeah, because she wasn't.
They have. It's the fact that a lot of the time when I've spoken to people about Walking Dead, it's the fact that they're trying to make the show different to the books. It's why they've got characters like what's the
Daryl.
Daryl, thank you. It's why they've got characters like Daryl, and it's the point of they're trying to make it different. But if they actually did follow the graphic novels a bit more, they'd get more of that interlocking stories. Because when you read the graphic novels, they do go back and forth between the different characters. You get that level of when they were in the prison, you got to see what the encampment for the governor was like. You got to see what they were doing and how they were doing things.
Yeah.
And it's just that level of they need to sort of incorporate.
But
that
it
more
seems
in
as
the
though
show.
they're making you care more for the characters they want you to care for.
I just think they need to choose either stick to the comics or don't.
Yeah.
Don't mix and match it, because in all fairness, one thing that me and Tony spoke about when season 1 came out, Alex, in season 1 was when Shane didn't die. We were so happy about that because obviously one thing
like
we
were
worried about was, are we going to be able to predict everything that happens because we've read it? But when Shane didn't die, that was fantastic for us because we don't know what they're going to do with him, and then we just felt they didn't really utilise him because his dynamic with Rick at the start was fantastic when he was still alive, and I was like, oh, this is really good. Daryl and Merle don't know him, so they could do whatever they want. I have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They killed off Shane. And with Daryl and Merle, especially when obviously the build-up for the prison with Merlin coming back and stuff like that was interesting to me because I had no idea what they were going to do with that.
Yeah.
So that's something I found with the show called iZombie. It's based on a comic book, but it's when you actually look at the comic book in comparison, other than the main character looking similar to that character, there is no parallels. They've taken the basic premise of it, and that was it. They've gone completely different with it.
The mid-season premiere did pick up a little bit in ratings. There was
it always does, though,
just over 12 million. But again, it, like you just said, it's one of them things where it's like just come back.
Yeah, every time it comes back,
but weeks after, in the finale, they recorded like a lowest rating score for when they changed the format to a 16-episode season.
Yeah, it's too long.
I've got a question of how accurate these numbers are, though, because some people will record it and stuff like that.
Exactly, and as well as that, the US, I think these are from US ratings, and of course the US get it a day before they do over here in the UK.
Yeah, but you've also got to think those ratings are based off when it's watched, when it is. So yeah, the show might end up with, like, say, 300,000 more, but they don't categorise that. They categorise it of who watches it when it is. So recording it doesn't count because you're not watching it at the time.
But it's consistent. Everyone who's watching it from all the shows would be the same amount of people.
That's what I mean.
It's an approximate.
People who watched it in season 1, if they enjoy it, will still be watching it.
And like I said,
losing that amount of thing is not just people
and like I said, obviously, because obviously it gets. Because the one thing that I got annoyed at was, I remember one episode, it was the episode in which Noah died, and I didn't know Noah was going to die. I didn't watch it, or I didn't find a live stream or whatever for the day before.
Well, I hope not, because it's illegal.
Yeah, we don't watch it legally.
Of course. But I didn't know that was going to happen, and I went on social media that day, and everyone was posting memes and just saying what exactly happened.
You have to watch
which
it
is
quick,
exactly.
It's too popular. Yeah, it's just everyone watches it, and you have to.
But you're always going to get that Game of Thrones massively.
Yeah, also, like I was saying earlier, it was the fact that I'd not seen some of the newer episodes of that, and the day after it had gone up, I'd seen a gif of one of the characters dying. It was like, well, I've not even had a chance to watch the episode yet, and I already know that this character just died.
I think that's the issue, though. You've either got to watch it when it comes out, or you've got to avoid social media until you watch it. And as much as that can be annoying, people are going to talk about it.
Of course, because they're the kind of shows that people do like to talk about.
Yeah, and if anything,
something happens,
the people who create the show want you to talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
If people aren't talking about it, then it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Previous seasons, of course, the approximate ratings, again, they were much higher, much higher from beginning to end than season 7. They were ranging from like 13 million to 14 million in some cases. Obviously, the very early ones were only ranging about 5 million to 8 or 9 million.
But the show was fresh then.
Yeah.
Once it got
it's
into
like the formula for it, though. You were saying like the structure of the show was better. It was better. We still had problems because I didn't like season 2 because that was the farm one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was dragged out.
Yeah, that was horrific to me because it's our problem we've just been discussing. It was drawn out, like in the comic book. It's not
as
that
I
long,
said,
but
they're only
that to
following
me
out.
highlighted little bits because that introduced Herschel, who's I actually like more in the show than I do in the comic books. He's not very predominant in the book. But then again, that is what we said earlier. Herschel has that one episode prior to him dying. Right. Yeah. The best episodes are the ones taken directly. One that springs to mind is when Rick goes back to see Morgan.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, that doesn't play exactly the same, but that's a fantastic episode.
Yeah.
They're
Put it
trying
this
to keep
way,
it like the
in the
comics,
comics,
In a time scale.
the comics is slow and methodical, and obviously, but it explains a lot of details, which works with the style of the concept of the whole thing. But the show, it gets hung up because people don't want to watch an episode of something once a week where it's just people talking, unless it's important information which depicts the future or that universe. But when people are just chatting about candy bars or something, and I'm not saying they did, you know what I mean? If they're just talking about nonsense, then people have waited a week to watch that, and they're like, well, nothing really happened. That was a bit boring.
It's like with any good writing, like there should be no dialogue, even dialogue. There should be no dialogue that is without purpose. And like there's no, and that every time there's dialogue there should be a change of reasoning. Maybe it's the character seeing something different or realising something different or being told something different, or is it different relationship, relationships change. Something should change with dialogue. There should be a purpose to dialogue.
So you're saying not some ways.
Well, season 3 was phenomenal for that because with the governor, and for me, it might be bad when I rewatch it, but for me, it feels like it transferred between the governor and Rick's group really well. Yeah. All the dialogue seemed to be on point and purposefully, like when you have it where Rick and governor sit down for a meeting. They've all got their own personal goals in mind for the dialogue. You don't want just pointless chatting about
trying to gain advantage or something that is like there's some purpose.
Unless that pointless conversation is not actually pointless, it's actually more about a character development. Yeah. So someone's like, as an example, have you seen Zombieland?
Yeah.
Where Tallahassee's talking about his dog, and it turns out to be his daughter the whole time, sort of thing. That was in the context when you're first hearing that, you're kind of like, oh, he's just really upset about his dog, but it makes sense later on, and you need that if you want to develop characters more. But The Walking Dead, the show, does not develop characters very well.
And this is what I mean. Like, this is script writing. This is what I'm saying. They can't make their own episodes.
They're trying to keep the comic book fans happy, but now that they've got this fan base from the TV show that may have not actually seen the comics, they're trying to keep both happy. And the problem with that is they're then trying to balance it on a. If you're going to keep them happy for the comic book fans, they've got to sort of stay true to what was done prior, because otherwise it's just that didn't happen in the comic.
The problem is the majority of comic fans don't want it to be like the comic book.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's one of those blurry lines because it's one of those things where I don't mind they change the comic books as long as they don't mess it up majorly and they do something of their own. I'm fine with that, but it's just got to be. It's got to be within the world of
comics.
But you're
dislodging it. You do an episode that's based on the comic book and people will really love it, but then they do their own material and it's like you're watching two different shows.
Do you think like the writers take into consideration the people that are reading the comics, or do you think like they just think these are people, or do they have the mindset of these are people that are coming into this like fresh and new, and they're just seeing it as a TV show?
Thing is, they've got to be aware of the comic.
But when they were first like starting
that's what I mean, which is why I think the show obviously stuck so close to it, which is what they should have done, but then branch off on their own thing.
Like,
but the problem is, the writing is still arguably good in places, but they need to pace it better. They can't do episodes following one character.
I just think
when it's stale.
You did 8 episodes, strong episodes. The views would be ridiculous because,
in all fairness,
so
I imagine it's got to be very difficult to follow the formula of the books into show, because what I enjoy about reading about the little details about them struggling for food won't transfer well onto the TV, but that's why they've got to adapt that and not make it slow and methodical, make things a little bit faster paced. Don't have it where you've got all of these pointless dialogues or things that just take up like 20 minutes of the scene of just like two people talking or this, that and the other.
Well, from what we can guess, the next season is going to be just all out guns firing, literally.
But is it?
They've been building for a war, but
exactly, that's what they've built up
did
to.
that for 2 seasons
It's built up, and we can predict that.
Yeah, but it's not going to be
It's
not going to be Battle of the Bastards scale of fighting, where it's like half an episode on one awesome battle. What it's going to be is, I was speaking to someone else about this. One of my other mates who isn't here, who really likes the show. He was saying like, oh yeah, it's going to start with the war, and I was like, problem is the way they structure it, it probably won't start with the war. You'll probably have a couple
war's
of
going to be
episodes.
throughout the season.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But that's bad. If it's going to be, they're going to build up, and everyone's going to be expecting this first episode to be fucking blood flying, guts and everything, and it's probably not. It's probably going to be them talking and stuff before it actually starts.
They've got the Dragon Ball Z syndrome.
It's the
Talk about it half the time. They have a 20-second fight, and then talk about it again.
You've got 5 minutes till the planet explodes, and like 20 episodes later, the planet's still not blowing up, sort of thing.
I think they're going to be slow and methodical, because realistically, if they're making the seasons longer, then realistically, if they have this war, that'd probably only be, 2 or 3 episodes?
This season did seem like a placeholder for some sort of war, though. That's what I was getting from it.
Yeah, but realistically, not many shows can pull that off. You can't have it where you can't waste a season, because look at the viewers. They've lost viewers. If that continues, the show will probably just die out.
Because if you had to like sum it up into like one sentence, it would just be introduction of Negan. As in not an opinion, just sort of like if you had to sum up the entire season, it would just introduction of Negan.
Yeah, it's
but
basically the
did it have to take the entire season?
This is it.
To just say, he's the bad guy, by the way.
From what I know from the graphic novels, it's kind of that introduction of Negan didn't take that long, and then you had the bit with Glenn, and it was just that happened, and it was quite fast paced in terms of
the war still builds up, but it's done in a better way.
The
tension's everywhere. You've got. In all fairness, they did capture some of the tension. Like there's the scene that is directly from the books again, so it doesn't say the show's good, but where Rick holds Lucille. That's a phenomenal scene, because obviously that shows the power play of Negan feeling that he's so much above Rick, he can have Rick walk around, like take Negan around his home whilst holding his weapon. Do you know what I mean? That's such a power play.
Yeah.
But then you have all of these other scenes where they're deliberately putting in scenes to just try and keep drilling into you just how bad of a guy Negan is, sort of thing. And I just think it played so well in the books.
Less is more. You don't.
Yeah.
It's a bit over the top. To me, it's
Well, I've stopped watching it.
Everyone I've spoke to, the only thing they're watching it for is Negan, because he's the only really good thing about this season.
Yeah.
Rick actually has been very uncharacteristic this season, compared to the books again, as I said. Because obviously it doesn't play out in this where he becomes somewhat of a bitch and gives up all his guns and he's like, no, I don't want to fight like a knob.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Rick in the books has always got a plan.
Yeah. Even if he gives up his gun, he has
what
a
he'll do
reason
is
for giving up.
you have it where he'll tell all of his community one thing, and then he'll pull one person aside and say, no, this is what's actually happening. That one great example of that in the books is when they first go to Alexandria. They're playing all nice, saying they're going to join the community, and Rick pulls a small group aside and says, no, we're keeping so many guns to ourselves just in case, sort of thing. He's always got a contingency, but in this it was shocking. Yeah. Absolutely shocking.
He's just sacrificing his character.
But then, I'm thinking you've got the bad examples of CG this season.
It's always bad.
But this season had 2 very jarring scenes. One, where when he meets who I presume are going to be the Whisperers, those weird people, and he climbs up that jump hill, you have that CG background, that looked absolutely shocking, and then a few episodes later you see a CG deal, and that looks
I saw that. I didn't watch it, but I saw that.
What's going on?
I think you showed me that. I was like,
what is going on? But then again, that is another example of a terrible episode, because I presume you've seen it, Luke, but that episode is just Rick and Michonne fucking looking for stuff, having sex again, looking for stuff. That episode was so drawn out.
That's something I don't like that they didn't do in the comics. Why is Rick and Michonne together? Because Like them as characters.
I think that was mainly because fans' reaction to them. They loved them, and they were like always wanting them.
The problem is that you put two powerhouses together, so now you know they're untouchable characters.
They never happen in the comics. They'll never happen.
Rick and Carl are pretty much untouchable characters.
Yeah.
But Michonne isn't, or she shouldn't be. Nice. But now by putting them together, you've made a power couple, which makes people think either she's going to die or she's now not going to die at all. My biggest issue is even those two getting together is that it came out of nowhere. Yeah. They didn't build up to those two being together. If anything, Rick had just been seeing that other woman who had a kid.
And then she died.
And the kid died. And then the next thing you know...
he moved on pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, you didn't... I mean, if they'd built to that, fine. Yeah. But they didn't. It came out of nowhere.
You talk about differences from comic books, of course. Herschel's death in the TV show was meant to be Tyrese's.
Yeah, but Tyrese was crap in the show.
So how much
Tyrese is a beast in the comics.
Yeah, with his hammer.
Absolutely.
Again, it shows more of how they tried to not to make it predictable.
Tyrese's death was a phenomenal episode. You like it?
Was that the one in the car? Like
no, you know when he's in the room and he's hallucinating.
Yeah,
that episode is phenomenal.
And he sees the governor again, which is really good. Yeah,
beautifully done. That is one of my favourite episodes.
But then again, even the way Herschel died, that was different to the book, and that's what I want.
Big difference is obviously Baby Judith is still alive in the TV show, and she's dead in the comic books.
Do you know what?
So, where do you think that's going?
Right, this is my comic book head. Well, the typical fans. I like that, but I don't like that. I like that because it's different, but I don't like it because A, that's going to be bad for the future of the show, realistically, and B, the way that Judith dies in the book adds to the brutality of the scene, because in the book,
both of them die.
Basically, as they're escaping the prison because the governor's trashed it, Laurie's running, holding Judith, and they both get shot. And that's so impactful for the character of Rick, because that's what precedes that is when Rick's on the phone and he's having like a mental breakdown. But obviously that's done differently in the show. But in the show, I guess, in the show they made it brutal in a different way because Carl had to kill his mom. So that adds to that brutality. But having her, I just think
the element to it, of course, is showing how to A, bring up a baby in a zombie apocalypse, and B, how the baby herself is actually growing up in the apocalypse.
But do you really see her being brought up in the zombie apocalypse? You see her at random intervals being held by random people.
Exactly, if it genuinely happened.
Yeah, but I'd say if you saw her being shielded from different things, or when she gets a bit older, you start to see her being shielded. But if anything, this is another example of them missing a trick. They've shown you nothing with her. All you see is her randomly in the house.
They just think that maybe because she's a baby, it's enough to get you to.
I personally, this is really brutal, but because she's a baby, for the brutality side, I think she should be killed, because that would add so much to the character of Rick. In all fairness, they've done it in the show really well, actually, when Rick grew that beard and he was going a bit mad, but obviously they did it better, in my opinion, in the book. But now they've got Rick where he's happy. They've given him everything he wants, bar his community at the moment. He's fighting for his community, but Rick has everything sorted for him, and that's something that should come much later when they're in a better position, which obviously, without going into it, is something that happens in the book, where Rick's in a happy position. He has his son, he has everything he wants. But now you've got him where he's got nothing. Well, he's got. I guess you're building him up with lots to lose, but you're also making a character that isn't really struggling in the world.
And we were talking about season 7 being stale, but writers have claimed that they have plans for season 10, 11 and 12. I know the comic books will continue, and the comic books do have a lot more detail, as we've been discussing.
But they catch
a lot more.
But of course. But what I'm saying is that if it's going stale now, how do you expect to keep it going in a TV sense rather than in a comic book sense?
You need to change the dynamic. So
there
clearly,
needs to be a massive overhaul in the next season.
It doesn't need to change anything with the show. It just needs to show, like I say, shorten its episodes, make it more interesting. Like, that's what I mean. Like, not change literally anything.
If they made 6 episodes season, but made every episode just as important as the one that goes before and after it. Like, as an example, this next season is going to have what? How many episodes does this season have?
16.
So let's say 16 is for the next one. How are you going to draw that war out for the whole season? You're not, are you? It's going to be slow and methodical. As you said, it's going to keep probably drifting between it. But if you made 6 episodes, you could have it for 3/4, like half of that season, and then have the aftermath. Do you know what I mean? It just makes it more impactful. It means that every second of those 6 hours is necessary.
Yeah, every other episode is going to be like a mini battle between them. They're all going to be separated. They're going to be stationed out across whatever location they can find.
But what you're going to see is they're going to be in battles, and then you're going to have an episode that is dedicated to a character where you see flashbacks of them interacting with people before the battle, in which case they're then going to die that season.
You'll see betrayal, you'll see allied forces, you'll see that group that was by the sea, they're going to come back because obviously they kind of hinted towards it. It was
you've got them,
it's not going to be
you've
totally...
got those weird people who I still think are going to turn out to be the Whisperers, which is something that's mentioned in the comics. You've got just how much Negan's going to battle. Do you know what I mean? You've got obviously the Kingdom getting involved. So they could potentially make this absolutely phenomenal.
They have 16 hours a season. Alright?
And that doesn't include any extra time for special 90-minute.
Yeah, exactly. They have 16 hours, and you're telling me, there's a lot of characters, but you're telling me, I've seen shows like Band of Brothers. Watch that. They have this. Yeah, that show's sick. One season, what is it, like 10 or 11 episodes? 10 episodes. Smash the glass.
Yeah, 10 episodes.
10 episodes, right? 10 hours, and you know everything about every character that die. You feel it, everything. Right? That's perfect in terms of that. They have like 16 hours, and you just can't care about anyone but the main cast.
So
that's not possible.
They're just trying to move it on too quickly.
No, I think they're not moving it on quick enough. I think they're going too slow.
If you're going to do 16 hours, do it right.
They're going too slow, but they need to make sure that you are having that attachment to the characters that are there. Not just your main, like, to a group of people. You want that level of... So that when the side characters are there, that you know that if they die, you're going to feel something. It's not just, oh, that guy's dead, guy's dead.
As an example, this season I was like, I think they're actually starting to do it, because they highlighted that the woman who looks after the food, you know, the one who got called fat a few times by Negan, but then it turns out that they only did that because she was going to get killed.
And it...
Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I'm like, again, you show me a character because you want to kill him
off.
show
that should be unpredictable, the way it is, the way it's structured, the way it starts out.
But then they're spending so much time on certain characters,
where and why.
And it's a bit... But to me, I'm not trying to be horrible, but Carol, I really like Carol. I used to.
Yeah.
I liked her transformation from being the mum who used to get beaten up to this badass.
Yeah.
But then this season and pretty much last season, you're just following her around, just shooting around.
It was sort of like they hit the reset button.
Yeah, this is it. This is my problem. Like, you're in that world. Those people in that world must go, I have to do anything to survive. How can you all of a sudden flick a switch and I can't kill anymore? Like,
I don't get how.
There's no reason. There's no logic.
Morgan was sort of the same.
Morgan.
No, but if Carol got to that situation which she was in, where she was happy and she thought, this is a lie, the world is horrible outside these walls, I can't stay here because if anything ever happens, I'm not going to be ready to fight again. And if she left to carry on fighting and whatever, struggling because she felt that that's what she needed to do to stay alive, and she thought, if I stay here, I'm just going to become stale and I'm going to forget about the dangers. But no, she left to not fight things. That makes no sense. If she'd have stayed and said, I'm not fighting Negan, I just want a peaceful life now, makes sense. But why would you leave the safety of a community to go out into the dangerous world to not fight anything?
And then, like, literally the same episode she leaves, I'm sure she comes across those guys in the car who try to kill her, then kills them all.
With that machine gun in her sleeve.
Yeah, like... You just literally...
She don't want to kill people, yet to get where she is right now in that house, from leaving Rick's group to get there, she's killed quite a few people because she killed those three.
But she knows there's people out there who kill her.
I don't get why, but she's finally got to that place that Ezekiel gave her for her to live a quiet life, yet she already had that inside the community with her family.
And if she was so concerned that somebody would take over this community or something would happen, why aren't people getting trained?
Yeah, no, but that was before.
Like, why aren't people?
I know, but she left before the Negan thing happened.
Yeah, no, but
the Negan thing was transpiring as.
I mean, but she left after the after the Wolves had fought them, so she wanted a quiet life. But how is she safer in a house on her own? Even though when someone knocked on her door, she grabbed a gun because she didn't know who was knocking on the door.
the gore and violence is also something that's evolved over time.
Otherwise,
if you didn't have the gore and violence in the zombie show, you'd drop in the ball.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's evolved over time.
There's not enough gore in it.
Not enough. Like the gory stuff I remember before, like what happened with Negan and Abraham and Glenn was Noah in the revolving door again.
Oh, that was pretty cool, yeah.
That was insane.
Actually, one of the shocking I'd say, is dead. It's actually when, I don't know who it is, they went to the petrol station, there was a dead baby in the sink.
No,
it was really short. It was really short, and they were like, and she went in the restroom and stuff, and then there was like a dead baby with a message and stuff like that, and there was like a dead baby in the sink or something. I was like, that's brutal. Like, there's a lot of things they don't want to do.
The whole point is the world's supposed to be a brutal place.
Well, we were talking earlier about Baby Judith still being alive, and I think that was meant to be some sort of
like just not going too far.
Well, no, in a way, I think having her in kind of shows that there is still purity in the world. But that's why you should kill her and show that there isn't, because there isn't.
There's not meant to be that level of.
In all fairness, her being alive isn't purity in the world. It's that she's obviously oblivious to what she will have to face.
It's like the progression of Carl. Carl went from being a little kid to.
Well, Carl's arguably the main character.
Yeah.
There was rumours that he's meant to take the centre role. Eventually,
yeah, which
was either the writers going, Rick could be killed, even though we know that it's not going to probably happen for another few series at least, depending on how the actor himself.
That's what I say. That's the only thing that's going to dictate that. The actor who wants to give up on his position, that he will die.
The problem is that if you kill him, the show can't handle that the same way the book would. The book would just have, say, Rick die, and then the book could still carry on. For the show to do that, they'd have to do a time skip. They'd have to. Because where Carl is at, he's still not really mature enough to do anything, as I said, but that's...
And also he's a shit actor.
That's character development. The character development in the books is a lot more slow and methodical, and you get to see them doing a lot more things.
Said in the books is the fact that Rick, even though he's like the main character, he's not safe. He could just as easily die as any of the other characters, and it's something that it was like stated in the first graphic novel.
Well, yeah, because it's highlighted because you see what he's like in the start of the show when he in the book when he wakes up to where he is now when they've done a time skip and it's like a couple of years after the Negan event, and he's a lot different character than what he was at the start. But you've also seen his transformations from, as I said, in the books he gets his hand chopped off. He has a phone call with his wife after she's died and stuff. He loses the plot, and you have a lot of stuff happen to him to get him to where he is.
But the same could be said with Negan as well. If you follow Negan's story, like, he's not... I wouldn't say, like, he's a bad guy, because he's been moulded by... Well, I mean, depending on how his upbringing was and how his backstory is.
Do you know what the interesting thing about The Walking Dead is, well, with the books anyway, is... If you followed anybody else, you'd think that Rick was you'd think they were the good guy and Rick was the bad guy. Because Rick has made some decisions in the books that you question, but because he's the main character, because he's the good guy, you're like, oh yeah, it's fine.
Because you followed his story.
And that's the beauty, though. You see people in his own group questioning his decisions. There's actually a section where he stops being the leader because of people questioning him, because of some of the decisions he's made, and then you have a big thing that when shit starts kicking off again, they kind of look to him and he's like, but you didn't want me as the leader, do you know what I mean? You didn't trust my opinion. So if you followed Negan from the start to there, when Negan fought Rick for the first time, you'd think Negan was the good guy. Because you'd think that all of the decisions that they've made to get to that point are for the sake of their community. Rick does some horrible things in the book, but in his head, and he even says it to them, he does it for their safety.
Every bad guy, I assume, would be the same.
Exactly.
Or quote-unquote bad guy, because...
Well, they actually did it in a pretty interesting way in the show, though, when you followed... you had that episode about the governor, didn't you? And it followed him in that little room with those other people, didn't they? They followed him in an episode anyway, and it gives you a bit more insight.
And his daughter as well was also.
They're starting to do it in the books where they're starting to tell you more of Negan's backstory. They also, for Free Comic Book Day, released some stuff about more of the governor's backstory, and you actually see that you're kind of brainwashed into these guys being baddies. You still think they're bad because you follow Rick. and you care about him because you've travelled with him.
But it's like if they were to have a spin-off.
But if it was a role reversal, you'd feel the exact same way about
And I say
Negan.
spin-off there, which segues into Fear the Walking Dead. Have we all seen that?
I have not seen it.
I saw a few episodes and I instantly was like, this is just The Walking Dead
I was kind of
version 2.
I have to admit, I am intrigued to watch it because I know nothing about it. So the fact is, I won't be invested in characters straight away. So that intrigues me, but it's whether or not the characters they've created are interesting enough to actually hold your interest. I don't know yet.
But it's meant to be set during the time that Rick was supposedly in a coma when everything was kicking off.
Also, it's when it first starts. I think that's interesting.
From
I like the
outbreak.
idea of that.
But I just want to know how far they'll go with it.
Probably not. I don't think.
Well, in all
Not
fairness,
as far as
they
they've
can
gone.
realistically take it as far as they want because
Yeah.
they can either, if it's starting to get a bit stale, they can have Rick meet up with them if they wanted
They
to.
can have overlaps of characters from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, if they don't, they can just have them separately. But as you said, you could just have cameos. You could have Daryl popping up in an episode.
I don't know like the
Have you ever played
location, but I think it's on like the other side of
Have you played
America.
the Telltale's Walking Dead game?
Yes, I played the first two games. I haven't
Glenn's
played
in
the
that,
third
isn't
one yet.
he? Glenn's with them before he fucks off and meets Rick's group.
Yes,
Because
I
you're like
believe
that.
it is.
You're at that hotel, like that motel, aren't you? And Glenn,
Oh yeah, of course he
and
is.
Glenn's
yeah.
there at the start, and then that's before the start of him being with the Walking
Yeah,
Dead
the
group.
cameo, yeah.
Yeah, he's with them, and then at the end of the first episode, he then sods off because he's going back home, and that's where, well, he's going to Atlanta, which is obviously where he'd end up meeting the others.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. I think that's really cool.
I think it's the Batman quote of you either see yourself live long enough to be either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. That's the same for any of the like characters like Rick or Negan or the Governor. It's that point of you can sit and be there as that we're going to save these people, and after a certain point you realise that the choices you're having to make are leading you down that if you were looking at it from an outside perspective, these guys aren't good people in the sense of doing good things. They're good people because they're protecting
you're
their
going
own.
back to the what
Going
we're
back to
talking
the-
about.
yeah. With that,
Fear the Walking Dead could actually put Glenn in it now,
Yeah, totally.
and have him just if he cuts his hair, and just have it as if that's starting when he's in a coma. You could have him in a season of it before it's as if he would go off to go and meet them.
It would be good, and it would. I mean, I don't know how they're doing in the ratings. I didn't actually check, but I would imagine that you could do a lot more with the character's backstory in that one than they're currently doing right now.
You could chuck Abraham in it.
Yeah.
you get that level of the backstory becomes what you're showing in the first place because of how far back it is set in comparison to The Walking Dead.
You could actually incorporate a character into Fear the Walking Dead, knowing that in a season's time you're actually going to put him in the main Walking Dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could actually create a character and say, oh yeah, we're going to establish him in Fear the Walking Dead. He's then going to leave, and then he'll join Walking Dead. But you already know him by the time. So when you see him for the first time in Walking Dead, you're invested. You know who he is.
So there's a lot of possibilities they could do
There
with
really is.
intertwining.
They could
intertwining the
even,
two.
if possible, obviously I doubt it because obviously at the moment they're getting two separate ratings, two separate payments. But if ever Fear the Walking Dead is going badly, but there are things they still want to explore with it, just put them into the Walking Dead. Have those characters eventually meet up with them.
Yeah. It's definitely something I like because we were saying earlier that they don't do enough to kind of make us care about the character.
Yeah.
Which, if they, I mean, maybe if you, I don't know, because it's difficult now. Because if you said, let's have that character from The Walking Dead, put him in the Fear the Walking Dead,
Yeah.
so we can see like how he develops at the beginning and how his backstory kind of goes.
Yeah.
Then, sort of like, it wouldn't mean the same if you watched them both back. If you saw it and then went, oh, so his backstory, then you watch back his episodes that he died or whatever, and then you didn't feel nothing then. Might not mean the same, but at least it shows they're making some sort of effort to kind
Because you
of.
could always do it the other way around, couldn't you? You could have someone who's in. I'm not saying because Carol they've already signed, but let's say they did something similar with another character. Said Carol wanted to leave, or someone else wanted to leave because, like, do you remember in season 1 when they're at the camp place and they went to go to look for Merle, didn't they? And when they came back, there was that guy who had a family who left, didn't they? That said they weren't going, they were going somewhere else. Do you remember? Put them in the Fear the Walking Dead. That's why they've left and they've ended up coming across that. Or, do you know what I mean? Or you can have it where someone decides to leave Rick's community, like he's like, oh, we're about to go out to all out war, and they're like, I don't want to fight. this place, as much as this is now home, I don't want to die to try and keep it. So they might leave, and then you can bring them into it.
There are a few possibilities with it, but like I said, the one concern I had is that it was basically just The Walking Dead version 2.0 set in another location with different characters.
I just wish, if they were going to do that, they'd change the format just drastically, so that, as you said, so they're not the same show. Make it completely different for whatever reason. Just, I like the idea that it's at the start of the outbreak. That's a nice twist. Just make it completely different. Somehow completely balls it up and just make it so that the outcome isn't the same.
To be fair, there are other shows that do that. It's like NCIS, they got 2 spin-offs, and then it's Chicago Fire, Chicago... There are other shows that do that where they've got the different sides
and they incorporate
and they do overlap.
Yeah, I mean,
level of
something that we may talk on later is...
You actually could put in, you could use characters that people already love from Walking Dead. So you could put the governor into the Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
You could see him become the governor. You could actually have it where maybe these people actually become part of the governor's group but then die before Rick ever met them.
Or left just as Rick does.
Or left before, and then you see him go off on another tangent. You could do so much with it.
A whole lot of possibilities.
Have that overlap.
Yeah.
Because like spin-offs just seem to be the kind of thing. Like you've got Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Alex is back.
Yeah.
It's
Dead.
there's just so many.
But that is exactly why they tend to work, at least initially, because you're invested. Like I really like a TV show called Blacklist, and there's a character in Blacklist called Tom Keane, who's actually a main character through the first 4 seasons, and now he's just got his own spin-off show, which has characters from Blacklist in it that you've already met through the seasons. So you're already invested in the characters that are there. It's brilliant. They've done it before, like, I also like Grey's Anatomy. There was a character in there, and she left to be a main character in another show, which is kind of like a hospital-style show, but in, like, Miami or something. So it can work. It's just making sure that you make it interesting. You have to keep the same formula, but then change bits about it, obviously.
Well, it should be the character's going to be. To run the whole
That's
show.
what I mean.
Like,
but then you've
in
also got the cameos from previous shows. You've got the opportunity to do loads of things with it.
So it's not a new concept either. I mean, like, I used to watch Warehouse 13 when it was running, and they had a they had a character from Eureka, or a town called Eureka, something like that, come into the show, and then later on in the season, he's brought back to that. He's then left Eureka, and he's doing his own sort of like project on his own. And that's been brought back into the Warehouse 13 universe sort of thing. And it becomes that level of, you can have those characters do things and have it overlap. You've just got to know where to draw the lines and not to go stupid with it, having changes that just don't make sense for the show.
So we talked about it a lot. Game of Thrones.
Shit. We don't love it.
Totally not. Just grown a hell of a lot since the books and since just the first season.
Well,
it's
already got the melody for success because it already has a fan base, and they're also getting out before it gets stale.
Yeah.
The show has been building and building and building, and just before we're about to see the climax of what the whole show's been building up to, they've announced that will be the end of it, and that's what you want. But who's to know? In a year's time, 2 years' time, they might do a couple of spin-offs from that because there's still so much more to tell.
The universe is so big.
And what they do is they keep you wanting more. So they talk about the Mad King, yet you never see it. It's basically, by the time the show finishes, that equilibrium will be finished, but the universe will still go on. Because you'll find out who the king or queen is by the end of it. But that's not where the story ends. There's still more that could do.
There'll still be stuff that happens.
But the problem with The Walking Dead is realistically there's only two outcomes. Either they stop the zombie apocalypse or everyone dies. They're the only 2 options for The Walking Dead.
Yeah, because every zombie film...
For a definitive ending of it.
If you want to watch zombie films, the zombie films always end the same.
In all fairness, I actually think The Walking Dead should end with everyone dying.
Yeah. There's no way. You're not going to defeat the zombie apocalypse.
But what I'd do is I'd get them in a state of equilibrium where they're all happy again, and then you do a time skip, and then obviously you see, do you know what I mean, what the aftermath was because eventually it's not realistically The Walking Dead's not going to end with humans finding a cure for zombies, because you can't reverse them being zombies, so the only humans left are the only humans left.
If you want to go for a fan theory, it's all in Rick's head and he's still in a coma.
Well, yeah, I know there's a fan theory about Old Man Carl as well, where apparently it's Old Man Carl and he's just retelling his story of him with his dad. And I think they're both bollocks, because the show's too brutal. Like, the book's too brutal to end on a high note.
It would be a complete waste of time if them fan theories are actually going to happen. Complete waste of time.
What you got to do is you've got to give them happy days and then pull the rug from beneath.
You can't. It's the kind of show, same in Game of Thrones. You can't really have a nap in here.
I can either see everyone dies, or I mean, it always ends the same. Everyone dies, but just nuclear option. Literally.
I think what's going to happen is just Rick's story. Once he's dead or Cole's dead, whoever it is, one of them two, that's the end of the story. That's the end of their arc.
Or what you do is like I said, you have the end of their arc, you'll time skip, and then you'll have it where Carl is just telling that story to a new community that he's living with, and the zombies are still there.
That's where Game of Thrones and Walking Dead are so similar and so different. They both come from they were books prior to them being made into TV shows.
Hold on. Walking Dead's a comic book.
Okay.
Game of Thrones is
They've had that source material prior to.
They had a platform.
But they've had that platform prior to them actually making the TV shows, and then they've gone into the TV shows. And it's the way that with a show like The Walking Dead, you could quite literally just kill every character in there, pick a handful of random new characters, just like pulled out of a hat, drop them on that planet, and it would still keep going, because there's no.
It wouldn't though.
In the sense of, there's nothing in that world that's set.
No, I mean it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it could potentially work, but it wouldn't work because if you're not invested in the characters, what you need to do is if you're going to kill Rick's group off, is you need to establish another group first.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, they killed all Rick off now, and then you followed Negan. People would be fine because you've established that character. But if you just killed them off and then just said years later and followed someone else,
what I was trying to say is more that with the sort of zombie apocalypse sort of world setting, there's not that world building where you can go, well, say, like stupid sort of thing. Randomly, every character that's been shown in the show just dies. You could quite literally just go and pick a new set of people that's randomly there, and it would still be that world. But with the same show like Game of Thrones, with the books and everything like that, it's got that you can't so much kill every character off and just pick up someone new, because they've got that world building to the sense of.
Is that what you think? I actually think the opposite. Because Game of Thrones, even if everyone dies, they've established so much of the universe of Game of Thrones. And you've got like King's Landing, you've got fucking all of these other places. If you killed everyone off, they would all stay intact. As in, The Walking Dead is very narrow-minded, especially in the show, because you only see this one sort of few communities.
If it was a game, it would be the biggest RPG ever.
Because if you killed everyone off, you wouldn't care about anybody else.
There's so much history as well.
Because obviously, like, as an example, people would be initially interested if, say, for example, they killed everyone else on Walking Dead and then they jumped to, say, Tokyo, and you were seeing how that was impacting. But that initial sort of interest would either die on its arse or not.
With Walking Dead, if you killed everyone off, you could move on, and there would be no.
Are we still on this?
Yeah, no. I'm trying to get my point across. Is that you could move on to another group of people, and there wouldn't be that overlap. You wouldn't get that. Oh, well, this guy was there. But with Game of Thrones, you'd still get that. There'd still be talk of the time that everybody died and stuff like that.
But that's why that'd carry on.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead wouldn't, because if you jump to another group, no one would know that. No one in that universe would know who Rick was, so no one would care that he died or not. But in Game of Thrones,
with a world like
the same way that the start of Game of Thrones, they're talking about the Mad King, and that happened before the start of the show. You're intrigued by that. So then, if they killed everyone off, and then people were telling stories about Joffrey, you'd be intrigued because you knew that guy, you followed him. In a universe like Game of Thrones, everyone's involved in everyone else's shit.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's the fact of you wouldn't be able to just pick up and start again in a show like Game of Thrones.
No, you can. That's what we're saying. You can in Game of Thrones.
Without you having that overlap, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but you'd want that overlap because people would be familiar with that.
you couldn't do a reboot where it's like you take everything out of the
Yes,
jar.
you could. That's what we're saying. In Game of Thrones, you can do that.
James,
Because
I'm shutting up now
because the world wouldn't,
James is wrong.
The world wouldn't be affected. The world would carry on, and if anything, you'd relate to the characters that died prior. The Walking Dead, no one knows who the fuck Rick is apart from Rick's friends.
I'm shutting up now because it's just never
Surely
gonna
I'm
end.
right here.
Any point in having buying like
Natural TV to watch TV.
No, in all fairness,
not the TV itself, but just
The digital,
whatever.
Yeah. One BBC One, two.
Yeah.
That shit.
Yeah.
No.
yeah,
That's my
What
question.
season are we on in Game of Thrones?
7. Yeah, there is, because you have TV shows that are on those
Sweet.
channels.
I can actually catch up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is it just a dying sort of?
No, I still watch TV.
I still watch TV.
I don't.
I don't do it.
I'm
very
just saying,
often,
but is it the way
How many
moving forward?
Yeah, but how many people?
How are you supposed to watch
literally-
the really shit TV shows?
No.
About TV?
No. How many people
No, not
just
the
watch
TV
it?
itself. Just
No,
the
I mean like the
channels.
digital
The
box. Like there's only shit.
You're on about like, just in general, as in like having a TV for the purpose of watching TV rather than using services like Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff like that.
Going them, using them forward.
Yeah.
But
And Netflix and stuff are good for something precise, but when you just want to binge watch TV, or the uncertainty of TV even, is still a draw for loads of people.
It's a bit like the death
As
of
much
the
as
box set.
you'll watch Netflix, realistically, most people will already know something they want to watch on Netflix,
Yeah.
and you'll probably realistically watch 2 or 3 things on Netflix religiously. But at the same time, if, like, as an example, I watch Stranger Things on Netflix, but no, it's not on Netflix, is it?
It is, yeah.
Oh. Yeah, but it's released all in one go. So you watch it all, binge watch it, and then what? Am I just going to just look through Netflix and see what I want? Isn't that the same as what you do on the TV?
Yeah,
you watch something on TV, and then you just flick through the channels to see if there's anything else you want to watch. Don't get me wrong, Netflix is good, but at the time, maybe in 10 years, it'll completely take over. But I still think they're at the stage now where they're slowly building their empires. So they're not 100% there anyway.
We've got to get. Well, they invest in films, so when
Oh
you
yeah,
have
don't
a
get me wrong.
selection of films,
They're actually in an amazing position where Amazon and Netflix are creating their own stuff.
It's a lot like movies.
Like American
in that
Gods
sense.
is
It's that
Amazon.
point of
Yeah.
you're no longer waiting for that weekly drop of an episode. You are now literally sitting there and going, you can watch it all now, rather than having to wait for them to do episode by
But that's
episode.
also a bad thing at the same time, though. Because for people who like to own things, you'll watch, say, Daredevil, when all that came out, then you've got to wait like a year and a half before you can actually own it.
Because because it's on there, it's that level of they want you to be on Netflix.
But I don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck you,
So
Netflix.
you've got to wait until
I just
Netflix
watch
then
it
go,
legally,
right,
like,
well,
I
we've
watch
had
it.
it for a year and a half now.
So do
We'll
I,
now
yeah.
release the box set.
I won't watch Netflix.
And that's why I think box sets are starting to become more of a same with CDs. Now that you can get everything digital, a lot of the times CDs, DVDs, that sort of thing is now becoming a point of, if you want it, you want to own a physical copy of something, you can still do it, but it's not the main way that people are going about it anymore.
Might want to go and tell HMV that. Poor HMV. In my personal thing is that you can't beat the experience of how you watch something. So, as an example, you just told me that. Do you know what I mean? Going to the cinema is like a completely different experience than watching a film at home. Do you know what I mean?
it's the same with music. Like you can listen to it on Spotify or whatever, but it's a completely different experience if you go and see a band live.
Oh,
Yeah, or if you listen to it
it's
naked.
that level of
Yeah, and helicopter.
But what I'm
Using
saying,
a helicopter.
what I'm saying is that obviously as technology moves forward, stuff like this is going to come about.
But at the same time, I also think they're trying to keep them connected because we're not ready for that. The same way you've got like the VR. We're not ready for that yet. That's why it's so minimal in what you can actually do with it. It's not really set up for the average person.
It's building up a platform.
And that's the problem.
Release
They,
that
they
way
make something that is useful for a minority, and you need to wait until it's useful for the majority.
You've got to wait for that point where it's something that, rather than wanting to just do something else.
Yeah, but if you don't test it
do it
before,
that
how are
way.
you supposed to know when the right time is?
Oh no, of course you test it, and there's nothing wrong with testing it, but that doesn't mean it's taking over because it's being tested. I can't see Netflix that long taking over TV because
You'd be part of TV.
no, not
Part
even that.
because there's not
part of it.
enough. there's
no,
not
I'm
like
thinking,
enough.
look how many channels like your Skybox or your Virgin Box has, and then you look at sort of Netflix. There's still a lot for them to gauge it at this point. They're now incorporating where they're starting to create their own things, which is actually really, really good because they have no restraints. That's why you got stuff like Grand Tour. Do you know what I mean? Amazon created them themselves because they saw the potential in it. They saw that it was already, it's basically Top Gear anyway, but
just Top Gear, with a load more money thrown in.
BBC's restraints, is it? So they're their own box.
Because it's in America, so everything's bigger.
And that's the beauty of it, but I can't see it sort of taking over because
American society there, though. Everything's bigger in America.
Arguably, Netflix and Amazon are doing really well, but are they still are they seen to be considered equals to say the BBC? I don't think so.
No, they're not on the same scale.
Do you know what I mean? In my opinion,
in the future, maybe they will be, but at this point
that's what I mean. In the future, they probably will be equals.
But you never know, they might fuck it up. Like they might make a bad investment in a film.
The original series is like the content they create.
You what, sorry?
The content they create.
Yeah, but BBC is surely deemed the same way when they have their own shows and stuff. It was only recently they had Taboo, which is the Tom Hardy created show.
It's all about the way it's progressing. It's got to. At this point, we can't really gauge how everything's going to go. It may go down the route of everything just being like Netflix and Amazon Prime.
But it's like Netflix. It's up to them to mess it up because, like I say, I don't know if it's Netflix or Amazon. They invested like 100 mil in Martin Scorsese films.
Amazon, wasn't it?
Was it Amazon?
I think it was Amazon, yeah.
Like,
I don't remember.
They're starting to invest real money now, like top money.
Yeah.
And if they flop on one of these, they're done. Like, if they're just jumped it, they jumped it completely from like 2 years ago, where it was just like probably 50 mil tops, absolute tops. It was like 10 or something like that. And then all of a sudden now
because
they're
they
going
were
to
behind the competition.
and now they're going to 100 mil because they're obviously getting more money, but they're investing more, which is more of a gamble. So you never know. In 2 years, Netflix might not exist. If they make enough bad gambles, they might not exist.
Because if they try and rush their success rather than just riding the tide and letting it accumulate and letting it build, because the same way that someone will say, oh yeah, Netflix doing really well, they're putting loads of movies on and stuff like that, and it's like, yeah, but normal TV plays loads of movies. You know what I mean? The internet still plays loads of movies.
Not in good quality when you're streaming it.
Oh no, terrible.
Depends though, because if you stream a film that's 3 years old, it'll be like a DVD quality. But at the same time, would you then arguably say, is there anything that Netflix gives me that I can't get from the internet? The same way that Netflix, is there anything that Netflix, like, do you know what I mean, that TV gives you that you can't get from Netflix? They all technically could outdo each other.
It's because it's not just Netflix and Fire Stick as well. Like you've got even free services like YouTube that's starting to stream stuff like that. I mean, I remember I was searching on YouTube last night, and there was it was in, I can't remember, I don't know what language it was, but there was the Juventus and Monaco game. That was also being streamed. The Anthony Joshua fight, as I mentioned before, that was being streamed on Facebook when it was live. So it's not just these big like Netflix and Fire Stick and all things like that are streaming these kind of events.
Of course.
You've got all over social media as well.
I just think I personally see them as companions to what's already there. Even though it probably will in the future, that it will be the future of, you won't have channels, you'll just have a Netflix stick, say, or you'll have an Amazon Prime stick and you'll just plug them in and then you'll have your channels that way. I don't know, but I see them as more companions because, as I said, there are things on normal channels that you won't get on Netflix. There are things on Netflix you won't get on Amazon. There are things on Amazon that you won't get on eBay.
You have to wait for Netflix.
And I think that's the beauty. People want a variety. They don't want to just have one thing.
Which is why Netflix constantly removes and adds stuff.
That's what I mean. I think that's beautiful. Yeah. And the same way that TV will constantly add and remove things. They all are companions because if you were told you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, you wouldn't be happy with that. We're creatures who like variety, and we like to make our own choices. So if all of a sudden everyone was told, that's it, it's just going to be Netflix. Netflix has bought Amazon, it's just going to be Netflix from now on, people wouldn't be happy with that. And even if that was the case, people would still watch stuff online, regardless of... If Netflix had everything, people would still watch stuff online. Because people like to be naughty.
I don't know about Sky, but I know for a fact that on the Virgin box itself, you can put Netflix through that anyway. And it's that point of it. It's not a case of...
With what?
You can
with
run
Virgin?
Through like the Virgin Media.
Oh yeah, because I have Netflix through my Virgin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's that point of, it's not a case of it's one or the other. It is that add-on of
it's on all platforms.
I think that's the beauty though. You want that because you've got different setups, haven't you? Like I have friends who have like 4 TVs in their house, and they'll all watch different shit.
It does just seem like an extra tool though to watch streaming events.
I think the same way people were talking about how the internet would take over TV. It hasn't. They're just companions. You can use the internet through your TV if you want to.
So you could say it's like built-up media rivalry.
Yeah, but at the same time, surely...
Nonsensical.
Yeah. But at the same time, I imagine a lot of them, like Netflix, I don't think would want to take over the TV, they'd want to work with them.
Yeah.
We've talked about why TV shows are popularity. Why popular? What? Why TV shows are popular and stuff?
People's preferences.
No, because what I'd say is that TV shows used to be about a platform for an actor to become more successful. If you look at Woody Harrelson in Cheers, he started out that. Yeah. But now we're at a stage now where money's being pumped into TV shows a lot more, and they're bringing in a lot more draw. So you're having directors who would only have, like, TV and film used to be separate universes, but now you're having like massive directors.
Scorsese doing
do you know what I mean? Directing TV series, and now you're getting like shows like True Detective that are bringing in actors like Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. You're getting the new.
It's just a higher quality script.
Yeah, the new American Gods has got Ian McShane in.
But is it because like you can do more with TV shows than you can do with movies?
Well, actually, you can just tell a story. If you have a story that's longer than an hour and a half, you can now tell a story for 6 hours, 8 hours.
I think also
or
the attraction for big actors is, like I said, high quality scripts, which makes more interesting characters and more time to work with the characters. Like you say, more money's getting pumped in, so they can offer. I think a lot of good actors will look at scripts at some of these, like True Detective. They probably look at the scripts and go, "That's a bloody good script."
Yeah,
I want to work that regardless of the money. Like if it's good enough, I think the best actors who like just do it because it's for the acting terms. They look at the scripts and go, "Damn, I need to work on this," and that's as simple as that. And I think the quality of scripts are going up.
I was going to say, plus you're also seeing it now where a lot of actors are actually funding a TV show, so they're creating it themselves. If you look at True Detective again, Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson were like the producers on it. Yeah. You look at Hannibal, Mads Mikkelsen was a producer on it.
Hannibal, that's a good one. That's a good show.
You look at TV shows on. You might not like it, but there's a TV show called Bones, and like David Boreanaz and Emily Deschanel, the 2 main actors, they are the executive producers on the show. Yeah. So it allows them to be more passionate about a project that obviously takes a lot more methodical thought to create a longer story.
You actually tell a story without having to try and fit it in that allotted time slot of an hour.
And you know that they do well because like shows like Twin Peaks, which obviously is a legendary TV show, is coming back with David Lynch doing it again. X-Files came back, and that's going to have another season.
There's movies that have become TV shows now. Scream got a reboot as a TV show instead of
it did. It's actually a really good TV series.
The series Unfortunate Events, that was a movie. That was a book series that turned into a movie. Netflix have now started doing. They've done like the first half of it as a series of episodes.
I have watched that.
There's that Coen brothers.
Fargo.
Fargo turned into a TV show as well.
I think media is starting to become more of it. Where you don't have to maintain this. Oh, it's a movie. It has to be a movie series. It can then go and become a TV show.
Well, just think we're in the day and age where when we're talking about Netflix stuff, people are collaborating. Yeah. There's a lot more collaboration there.
And one more thing as well. Like we talked in the previous podcast about comic books being turned into movies. It's the same happening with TV shows as well.
Yeah.
Like you've got
Daredevil,
Arrow,
Cage,
the Netflix shows like
Jessica
that.
Jones, yeah.
You got Arrow as well. You got Flash.
the Defenders, you've got the Inhumans coming out, you've got Agents of
Are
S.H.I.E.L.D.
they actually bringing that back? 'Cause I thought that was a movie.
No, the Inhumans have got they've actually released the picture of the characters.
Oh, nice.
Got the Legends of Tomorrow as well. They're kind of like spin-off from the original two, and they all cross over at some point. They all always they're always in like not far away. Or there's like subtle references to them within
Like
the
I mentioned,
TV show.
Zombie, that was based off of comics. It's now a TV show. It's that level of everything's becoming more open to.
I think
Well, comics are being adapted all the time.
I think that's because special effects
Preacher.
become more accessible.
Walking Dead.
Accessible, so they can do these things with these superabilities and show them off.
Game of
It's
Thrones
more
to an
accessible.
extent, but I think it came out after the TV show started.
Yeah, it came out after. But then you've also got Outcast, the
Yeah.
new show by Robert Kirkman, which
Yeah.
is also a comic book.
Okay, you like comic books.
I like them a lot. What can I say?
First time.
We were talking about money being pumped in before. It doesn't necessarily make it a great show, or at least to the common fan, anyway.
Well, as an example,
Money
look,
doesn't always mean you're going to get the best.
Walking Dead has obviously had an injection of money. With every season has more money than the prior one.
Well, I would assume so because obviously it's gotten bigger and
But
bigger
then-
with a more audience.
they're-
And not only that, but with more
But their
production.
Quite a
CG
small
deer
budget
is
in comparison.
shy. But then Suicide Squad, its CG was crap. But then you have shows like Flash that have good CG in it.
Yeah, it goes back to
like
Killer
you,
King
Croc and
Shark
King
was
Shark things.
amazing.
It makes you question why they didn't go down that route. So I think someone said that they were trying to be more realistic with it. It's like,
No, it's
for a
probably
lizard
because
person,
they
there is
didn't.
no realism here.
Yeah, but the same with Marvel. They don't want to say whether they're connected or not. So having King Shark in it would mean that they were connected.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with you've got that sort of underlying level of they make references in the Netflix stuff too, like mainline stuff, but they never really say it is definitely in the same universe. Whereas I think they went wrong with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is they tried to push it to be it's almost like a companion to the movies as they came out.
Yeah.
And it progressively just got worse as it went on. I stopped enjoying it just after they introduced Ghost Rider, like the reboot of Ghost Rider. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the character in the comic books, but I feel like he was just sort of wedged into the show and it wasn't necessary.
I liked him in the show. I thought he was probably one of the big draws of the show. He was Ghost Rider. They introduced him in Agents of
He looked
S.H.I.E.L.D.
fucking badass.
He looked really
I
good.
won't deny that. He looked badass and the character was played right. For the storyline, I feel like they just tried to shoehorn him in there. He didn't really need to be in that show. They could have just gone here's a Ghost Rider TV show and it would have done in my opinion, better than it did as let's just cram him in there with everything else that's been going on.
A big thank you to the panel of Matthew Wright, Alexander Roberts, or Tony as he is referred to on numerous occasions throughout the podcast, and also James Fox for offering their opinions on all subjects developed during this. Remember, if you haven't already, you can go back and check out the film podcast that we did together. The link will be somewhere down below. The third podcast won't be too far away and will be put up in the very near future, and this one will be on the world of gaming, so be sure to check that out and look out for that one. Thank you for listening, and I will see you for the next podcast.